Welcome to Diary of a Queen. I'm your host, Danielle Martin. It's looking a little Christmassy around here, which is a perfect time to spread joy, which I know exactly what our next guest will do. Heather, thank you so much for being here. I know you're in Florida. I have a feeling it's a touch warmer there than it is here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was like 85 degrees today. I'm like, it's November. Are we going to get like a little breeze, something? It's warm. So hopefully we'll get a little cooler weather, but hopefully soon.
We're in the midst of freezing rain. My kids keep saying every day they're praying to get snow. Matter of fact, my daughter actually said she wants it to snow so much that it's up to the rooftop and we have to tunnel our way to get out. So I guess that's the product of being a child that grows up in the South. She's never really seen, a really, really big snowfall. But I want to say thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to have you, and I'm ready to start digging in. Are you ready to get going?
Ready or never, right?
Perfect. Yeah. So Heather and I have known each other for a while, but we haven't talked in a long time. And I thought this was a perfect opportunity because for all of you out there that are watching, I really wanted to tap into all kinds of different people from different walks of life that have experienced things that I thought other people might find really interesting. So we're going to start off with some of the, what I call less juicy stuff, right? But still important. You have had an amazing fitness journey. Now, y'all, when I say amazing fitness journey, this gal is, we'll just say not 20.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. And you've had this like fantastic, you're so great about sticking to it. I know we all fall off every once in a while, but you have been so great about sticking to it. And I know that fitness is something that's super important to you. Yeah. So tell me about your fitness journey and how you continue to do what you do with 3 babies in the house.
So, gosh, my fitness journey, there's so much into that, just that statement. I feel like, you know how you are when you're in the flow of something and you really love what you're doing at that moment. That's how I feel when I'm exercising, when I'm talking about fitness. I just have a love and a passion for it. So first of all, I just love fitness. So I when I'm an older mother. So when I became pregnant, kind of a surprise the first time around, we were like, we had been married for years, just kind of traveling around. My husband's a pilot. So we were just kind of traveling, having fun. And we were like, well, do you want to have kids? Yeah. Yeah, maybe, we were too busy. We're too busy right now. So, time was going by and I said, well, maybe we're not going to have kids and that's okay too. Right. And we never got tested or anything like that. It wasn't really a major conversation. So we were like good either way. So we're just kind of traveling and living life. And then surprisingly, I became pregnant at 35, my first baby, Aspen. So, and that kind of rocked my world. I was like, all right, what do we do here? And that first baby's like, you just don't know how to do anything. So, I gained weight and then I was like, well, I have to get this weight off. So I put myself on a diet and I just worked out every day, consistently, and I just loved it, and it just came off eventually. It didn't happen overnight. I don't think, if you have a baby at 25, it's the same when you have a baby at 35. And then I had my second child at 38, and I actually really tried for her. I would take my temperature every morning and, just really monitor everything. And we got pregnant, luckily, which is kind of amazing that he travels all the time. And we actually, we're tracking everything for her. So I got pregnant with her at 38. same thing after I had her. I, put the weight on from the pregnancy, did exactly the same thing. I consistently worked out and it came off eventually. And then we had a surprise baby, the third baby at 44 years old. And we call her our pandemic baby. So I had her, April 17th, 2020. So she's like 2.5 now. And that rocked my world. Danielle, I want to keep on calling you Nicole. I don't know why. Danielle, that rocked my world. Because we just didn't expect it. And we know how it happens, right? I thought I was actually, kind of in the beginning stages of the, perimenopause. I didn't really suspect that I was all good to have another baby. So, and that was quite a journey. I definitely, that my third child had a little bit of the postpartum after I had her, and I was in a funk because we had the pandemic stuff, and I do well with structure, and I was missing that gym time. And I had to get myself out of that funk somehow. So I had done, one of the things that I wanted to do that was on my bucket list was a Mrs. pageant. I had always wanted to do a Mrs. pageant. And at that time I had always done fitness competitions. So I kind of transitioned back into pageantry after I had my children, into a Mrs. pageant, the Mrs. Florida America pageant. And I said, this is a great goal for me to do and, check off the Mrs. pageant on my bucket list and, show women that you can get back in shape if you have 2, 3, 4 babies, whatever. And, at any age, you can do what you want if you put your mind to it. So, and then this last time after I had Azure, she's my third child. I had her at 44. I said, I want to go back. I want to go back and I want to show that you can get that weight off. The third child. And then, unexpectedly, my older child has ADHD, and all of that came around to her diagnosis at that time. So just a whole journey happened with me there and her becoming closer. So I just talked a long time. Sorry about that.
No,
so you asked me a lovely question about my journey.
There's a couple of things that you said that I really want to touch on. So first and foremost, these interviews for these podcasts are completely unrehearsed. We don't talk about anything beforehand. Up until a couple minutes ago, I hadn't talked to Heather physically in over 20 years. And for people that aren't used to being interviewed, heck, I get nervous. We all get nervous. So, I was laughing at once and you said, I wanted to call you Nicole. It's just, nerves.
Right.
So I want to tell you, I'm proud of every single person that comes on and talks to me, because this might be out of your comfort zone. This might be something that's not something that you're not used to, and you're put on the spot, and you have no idea what I'm going to ask you. I promise I'll be kind, but you just don't know. So it is very hard. So the first thing I want to say, and you're actually the first person I've actually gotten a chance to say it to, is this is hard and this is out of your comfort zone. And so I'm proud of you for even doing it. So that's first. Second, when you said 44 years old, in my head, I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Because I had my last one right before I turned 43. I have 3 children as well. And it's hard, right? Yeah. And then, and we're going to talk about the being older and having kids in just a minute. And we're going to talk about your daughter's diagnosis, because I want to delve into that, because I think people will really find that interesting, because there's a lot of people that are having to deal with that right now. But I wanted to touch back on fitness just because, you've got 3 daughters, and you, of course, want to maintain this sense of a healthy self-image, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where people may want to say something, well, mom's losing weight. Aren't you good just the way that you are?
Right.
Or you're doing a pageant. Well, do you need that in order to validate yourself? So, of all people, I understand where you're coming from, that a lot of the times that this is stuff that you do for yourself. It's a way to set a goal for yourself. It's a way to, it's a way for you to be proud of yourself. It's hard being a mom. It is not the most glamorous job in the world.
No.
For sure.
No.
And if there's an opportunity to make you feel great about yourself, I don't see anything wrong with that at all. But I've seen you do a couple videos a couple times with your daughters that they're working out with you. And so what do you do to promote a healthy self-image for them while they watch you do these things?
I think, you would think I put so much emphasis on it, but I really don't. And, they know I love to work out and the fitness. We go to the gym like every day, and we're going to the gym. They grew up in the gym, but I'm very laid back. Like, I'm very with them, I feel like I love that they are physically active. All of them are, one is running track, one's in gymnastics, the little one's climbing everything. So I love that they are physically active, and that's really all I want. I don't, that's really, at the end of the day, I'm just so thankful they're healthy and happy and active. So I don't really push anything on them at all. And I let them be who they want to be. So they don't have to be little mini me's or anything. And I think that's the way to go.
I agree. And I think that's all that you really can do. I want to talk about, and I don't know which of your children was diagnosed with ADHD, but I know that's a really tough road. I have a nephew that has had issues with that as well. Okay. And, getting to the diagnosis part is so frustrating because, am I doing everything that I can do? What's wrong? Did I do this? And as much as parents want to say that they don't compare their children, you do. Everybody does it. So you're like, well, why isn't this one doing what the other one did? So how did you come about the diagnosis? And is this something, do all of your children have just one? Do you have it as well? I really don't know. Yeah.
So I mentioned active. They are all very active, naturally. But we found that even as a small child, she was really active, which is great. But then we would call her name about 3, 4, years old and say, Aspen. And she would, sometimes she would respond to us and not. So we thought at first she had maybe a hearing problem. So we got that checked out. And just at that time, we had no idea it was attention deficit. So it was such a journey to get to that diagnosis. And I really have it in my heart for parents that go through what we did, because it is quite interesting to even understand what you're looking for. You don't know, sometimes even what the symptoms are. So I did have it as a child. I got diagnosed with ADD when I was 5 years old. And my mom and dad were very proactive. I never went on any medicine at that time. And when I was growing up, it was kind of a stigma, because I'm 47 now. So back, way back in the heyday, it was very much of a stigma to have that. So I kind of grew up ashamed of it. And then when Aspen was diagnosed, she was just diagnosed probably 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. So it was a relief that we can help her. And we have so many tools and resources now. And one thing that I did not want her to feel was ashamed and kind of grow up with less than, maybe less than someone else, or not have as much confidence, because you're not. You have just as much as anybody else or more. And I want her to know that going through her life, that she can do whatever she puts her mind to in this life.
It's so difficult, as a parent, when your child goes through anything. It's so difficult to not let the guilt eat you. It's so difficult to not want to try to fix something. And it's so difficult not to compare when you have other children, to their siblings. So I commend you, because I do know, going through this with friends and relatives, that, again, leading up to that diagnosis part is the hardest thing. And once you get to that place, it's still what do we do? You look back years later and go, oh my gosh, how did we get through that? But, being proactive about it is so important. Mm-hmm. And, at the end of the day, kids are what they are. They're made perfectly. Just the
yeah. Yes.
I was just thinking that. So perfectly. And, the great
There's nothing to fix sometimes, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. And it's a change kind of in a thought process. So I have a similar incident with my middle child. Same thing, that I, instead of that thought of I need to fix him, I don't need to fix him. I need to support who he is.
Yes, I love that.
So
that's exactly what it is.
As soon as my mindset changed, he changed, right? Because they're looking to us as the adult to lift them up. And that's, that's our job. It's not always the easiest thing. Believe me, it gets very frustrating at times, especially when they're of school age and you have issues with school. Yes. So I commend you for just, being behind your child and having her back, and not trying to fix something, but support something instead. And I know that can be really difficult. We always, as parents, want to be able to fix things. The other thing I want to touch on, every time I go to a high school reunion or anything like that, you know how they always do, they give out the prize for the youngest baby. I'm like, all right, just give me the prize, because I know I'm going to win it. Well, it's good thing I didn't with you, because you would win it. So I had my third child 6 weeks before I turned 43. You had yours at 44. I know, yay for older mamas.
So, older moms.
The Older Moms Club. What's really funny is right after I had him, I was in my pediatrician's office, and I love my pediatrician. He's so wonderful. But I was in my pediatrician's office, and he said, I said, this is hard. I don't remember it being this hard. And I didn't have my first one until I was 37. So kind of similar as you, 37,
similar.
39, and 6 weeks before I turned 43. Mm-hmm. Well, he said to me something that made me laugh out loud so hard. I was like, this is so hard. He goes, oh, just wait till you have a toddler and you're going through menopause. And I was like,
oh boy.
Oh my God, this was not well planned out. I didn't think about that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a thing. Like, that's going to be a real thing, right? So, and menopause, we could have a whole nother segment just about.
It's like reality. Reality.
A whole nother segment, a whole nother podcast just about menopause.
Yes, we could.
But, what do you think is the hardest thing about having a child at 44? What's the hardest thing?
Everything. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, oh my gosh. For me, it's just, my husband altogether, he's gone 6 months out of the year.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it's just the energy level I have to be it. I have to be up. I have to be going. I have to be, just going. And I think the energy level is not the same as it was on that first baby, and I can tell sometimes. And I have to recharge myself. I find ways, to really kind of recenter and recharge, because I know that, and speaking about exercise, that's one of the things that, that recharges me and makes me happy. Getting a little sunlight, maybe getting a little facial, here and there. It recharges a mom. It helps a mom feel good. And we have to do that in order to feed them and their soul. We have to feed our own soul. So, I just know that we have to do that. It's like, what's that saying? Like when put your oxygen mask on before you put the child's oxygen mask on. And that's what we do. Like we're it. We're their support. We're their cheerleader every day. So, and I want them to be happy. Like they're an extension of us. So, everything, every day's different too. Every day's hard. Every day's easy. Like it's just not the same day either. Like it's just, but we do it.
I always say that having a child when you are older, I have a friend of the family that her mother had her when she was older, even older than us. And she has siblings that are 20 years older than she is, or they have now passed. But she said, I always had a grandmother. I never had a mother. My mom didn't play ball with me. My mom didn't do that, because she was so much older. And I've always felt that responsibility. And I'm sure you have too. I've always felt that responsibility. Hey, my child did not choose to have a mom that was a little older. I feel responsible to still do all the physical things that I would have done if I'd had a child at 25. So I'm the same as you. Working out, eating well, staying fit, staying healthy is an extension of my motherhood to be able to do with my kids, what I want to do. And I have a funny story for you. So you're right. Every day's different and every day is hard. Every day I'm
just to that point that you just said, it's our obligation to be here, if we can, if God willing, we want to be here for them, because I want to see those special moments, so our longevity is a gift, right? That's, and little Azure, I want to see things. And I know my husband does too. He just turned 50. So it's, we got to keep going. Right.
Yeah. And you'll probably relate to this. I was going to tell you a funny story. So I went to, my youngest is in TK. He's in his little preschool,
Oh,
and we go to the TK. And they were doing a little party in the classroom or whatever. And there's a gal I get tickled every time I think of this. There was a gal that's in the classroom, and she says to me, of all people, she picks me to say this to, we're thinking about having another child. She only has one. We're thinking about having another child, but, I'm a little older. I'm 28. She said, I'm 28. And I looked at her and I'm thinking, I am 20 years older than
But she doesn't realize it. She doesn't realize it.
She doesn't. She has no idea. But it was so fun to watch her expression, feeling like she is like completely over the hill, almost not even able to have children anymore at 28. But I always think about that particular conversation just because it tickled me so much. But the thing about being a little older that I love, my best friend's husband gave me one of the most valuable pieces of advice that I've had during my years of being a parent. So he had his first child in what I guess you would call the normal years, in his 20s. And then he didn't have his second child until he was in his 50s. So, right. So he remarried.
Yeah.
And he remarried my best friend. And I remember him telling me, I said, what is the biggest difference between then and now? And he said, time means more to me now than it did then.
Yeah.
So every moment, every dance recital, every graduation seems like such a gift and such a big deal. Those are things that I just not that he let them pass by. He's a wonderful father, but it's something when you're in your 20s, you just don't think about. So something that I love about being an older parent is I cherish every single moment. Don't you feel that way too?
Yes. And I feel like even when I get frustrated, because I have days, every day is kind of frustrating a little bit. But I'm like, it's okay. Who cares? And, it's like I always see the big picture. And I think that's attributed to being older. It's not as much, don't sweat the small stuff, right? And I just go back like, okay, the house is a mess and we've got like 5 minutes to get out the door, or, I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. So, yeah.
I agree. I think patience definitely comes when you get older. And I don't know if it's so much patience as it is, because believe me, I lose my patience all the time. I don't think it's so much patience as it's just you don't sweat the small stuff. So, for anybody listening right now, don't sweat the small stuff. If it's not going to be important in 5 years, it's not important. Don't let it get you out of your mind, if it's something that's not really going to be all that important in the long run. I love to end all of these podcasts by asking my guests, as you know, this entire podcast is supposed to be about uplifting women. What can we learn from each other? What can we talk to each other about? Things that people don't normally talk about. But I love to give a piece of advice or have my guests give other women a piece of advice. It could be about anything, but I love to end that way because you never know what that little nugget will do for somebody. So if you had to give one piece of advice to anybody that's watching, any of the women that are watching, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say one thing for me that I've been really good about is kind of like we're on the top of being an older mom, being an older person. I have weeded out the people that don't bring me joy or sunshine. I'm down to just this beautiful small group of close friends, and they bring me joy. They surround me with positivity, uplifting, especially, being a mom of 3. I need that. I seek that. And I feel like I give that to them. So I feel like women need to find their people that bring them sunshine, whether it be 1 woman, 2 women, 3 women. Just find that person. And I spent time with my best friend today, and she, she's encouraging all the time. She keeps on, we can do it. Let's go. Whatever it is, she's behind me. I know she has my back, So I think that women, we just need to find that person. We need to find that other woman that's good, right? So, and I think my piece of advice is just stay positive, just find the positive things And I always tell my girls, I say, you know, you find something positive about everybody and you can learn something from everybody. You just have to listen. So.
I love that so much, because I feel exactly that way, that if you give joy, you'll get joy. And that's really what this whole life is all about, is just spreading joy. And what a wonderful world it would be if that's all that we did, right? Heather, thank you so much for being with me today and spending time with me. I know that this is something that is not necessarily part of your comfort zone, but I also guarantee that you've said something today that's going to strike a chord with somebody. And so for that, I am eternally grateful. Thank you for spending the time with me and taking time out of your family.
Thank you, Danielle, so much for having me and having this space for women to express themselves, to be raw and real, right? And also, I just love not being perfect. You know, I'm not a perfect person, and, you know, I wish I was, but I'm not. But, you know, I hope that, you know, like you said, somebody can take a little nugget of our conversation and use it towards positivity in their life. And thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, I love it. Thank you again, Heather. If anything that Heather has said today has struck a chord with you and you're watching today, make sure you like this video. And of course, please subscribe to the channel. We have so many guests coming up over the next couple months, and I certainly don't want you to miss any of it, because just like Heather today, I know you're going to hear something that resonates with you. Thank you so much for being with Diary of a Queen.